This conference will now be recorded.
Hello, good morning, and welcome to the Ultima monthly webinar. So this month is obviously around Microsoft licensing, and we'll be looking at the recent changes and updates from Microsoft. We'll review what those have been, why Microsoft are making the changes, and what this could mean for the future of your organization and Microsoft licensing roadmap in general. I'm Ian Gerard. I'm one of the Microsoft licensing consultants for Ultima, and you can see all of my contact details up there on the screen. So should you have any questions, then please don't hesitate to contact me. We will, like I say, just take a look at what those recent changes are, and we'll focus on a couple of particular areas where there seems to be more questions or a little bit more uncertainty. As always, this is going to be a relatively high-level introduction, and I'm sure there's going to be questions that are relevant for your organisation and your specific scenario. So I would encourage you to contact your Ultima account manager or myself or your licensing consultant should you want to hear any of this. Also, more than happy to kind of come in and present this directly to you and your team, make it kind of relevant to yourself as well. But like I say, this is a high-level overview of what those recent updates and changes and the kind of news from Microsoft has been. Certainly since August time, there have been a significant amount of changes. What I will do initially is actually just run through those most recent ones, those most recent updates from November time. And starting off with CSP, which is the Cloud Solutions Platform or Cloud Solutions provider or partner. And this is the month-on-month agreement where you can buy all of your cloud licenses. So always build on month-by-month basis, but from the 31st of October, we have seen the change from Microsoft that now we can now bill annually. We can now bill annually for CSP, so it doesn't have to be month on month, and you can get a little bit more price locking and have that consistent price point for 12 months as opposed to just 30 days. With Dynamics, the main updates there, and again, this is one of Microsoft's key strategic products, Dynamics and 365. There is a wave of new AI apps, all kind of flooding the market. So that's something where Microsoft are putting a lot of attention and resource. So certainly speak to your expert Dynamics partners, or we can kind of put you in contact with the relevant Microsoft team. And now we're really seeing the RPA and the AI apps starting to come into those platforms. With the home use program, so this home use program, this is effectively where if you have Office Professional Plus with software assurance underneath an enterprise agreement, your employees can go and buy a home copy of Office for £12.99, or I think it's gone up to £13.99. For their own personal use at home, which is a significant advantage. Generally speaking, there's been some uncertainty regarding the home use program, but I can now confirm that Office 2019 is now included in that home use program. And actually, if you had bought your Office license via an Office 365 subscription, such as 365 Pro Plus or E3 or E5, well, actually, you wouldn't actually get the home use program because it would be argued that actually that home PC can be one of your devices. However, Microsoft have now made the decision that actually, if you have invested in over 2,000 users for that Office Online, then you can get the home use program, which again, to confirm, that home use program is the ability to enter a direct commercial relationship at a vastly discounted price to buy a commercial license for home use. With RDS CALs, the major update now is that they have been added to the CSP agreement. The CSP agreement, traditionally always online product only, but we now do see some on-premise product coming on there, and I'll come on to the futures a little while. But for example, we see the Windows Server, we see Windows 10, and now from November we see the RDS CALs being introduced, an on-premise license being introduced to CSP. In regards to the e-learning, which is again this kind of online learning, half-hour online learning for your users, from the 1st of November, this e-learning has actually changed its name and is now called Microsoft Learn. And previously it was available to organizations who had active software assurance. Well, actually that was e-learning. This new program, this Microsoft Learn the 1st of November, it is free to all customers, whether you buy with software assurance or without, under an EA or outside of an EA. One of the other changes is the Microsoft 365 single SKU. So effectively on the admin portal, if you are having to allocate all the licenses to a particular user, you'd have to allocate them the Windows 10 license, the PS Office, maybe Exchange, maybe so on and so forth. Well, actually now on the admin portal, you can have this M365 as a single SKU. So rather than having to kind of go through it 3 times, once for Office, once for Windows, once for the Mobility Suite, you just have to do that the once. It's easier to maintain, and certainly around anniversaries and tracking all those users, it's going to make you 60% more efficient. So there have been some significant, the next one really is around reserved instances and all things to do with Azure. And Azure is a vastly expanding, growing area of focus for Microsoft. It absolutely is a key part of their strategy, whether you're just looking to host some virtual machines or take some of the more advanced workloads. And so the idea around, for those who don't know, kind of reserved instances, this is the idea where actually you prepay for the virtual machines. So you can offset that against your if you are going to predictably be using the same size and type of virtual machine, and if you were to prepay for that for 12 months, that will reduce the cost of what you will be paying in Azure for that service. So initially, reserved instances did start with this prepaying for the bare compute only. They then extended it out to reserved capacity. For example, SQL database compute capacity or something along those lines. Now, from the 1st of November, or maybe even the 30th of October, it now includes Linux software. So again, more and more rollouts, more and more options with regards to these reserved instances, which sits very closely with the hybrid use benefit we're more than happy to talk through as well. Moving on to Office 365 Pro Plus, we know that is now included for over 2,000 users with the home use program. You will get the Microsoft Learn with that. It is going to be supported on Windows 8.1 up to January 2023, and actually it's going to be supported on Windows Server 2016 until October 2025. So that's some good news for that as well. Now, one of the things we do get asked about a lot is Skype for Business and Teams and that transition. Okay, well, if I'm buying Skype, do I have to buy something extra for Teams? How does one work? How do they operate? And how does that all fit together? So, features and functionality wise, all the features and functionality of Skype for Business is moving, has begun to move, has already moved to Microsoft Teams. Now, there's no new licensing required. There's no increasing license cost or a change in the actual modeling of that licensing. If you have existing Skype for Business licensing, that will simply provide Teams licensing when that switch happens for you. And then when you come to renewal, you'll notice perhaps you're renewing Teams. At the moment, the license itself is still called a Skype for Business license. Always with this, there's always going to be additional licenses. At the moment, you've kind of got standard level Skype, enterprise Skype. You might have the plus cal as well if you're doing full telephony. If you're online, it's kind of plan 1, plan 2. You're always going to have these 2 other elements. There's always going to be these additional licenses for audio conferencing and for phone system. Now, undoubtedly, they're part of, just so you're aware, they are part of that E5 suite, along with Power BI and lots of other bits and pieces. But you can always buy the audio conferencing as an individual component, and you can always buy that phone system as an individual component. At the moment, you're buying Skeets, but effectively you will be using Teams in time. But they will kind of always remain separate, and they're both required for telephony. Now, again, with that transition from the 1st of October, all new customers who are under 500 users are actually being onboarded directly to Teams. Okay, so they're not even going to have access to any of that Skype for Business functionality or branding. So that's something where we will then see over the next 12 to 18 months those active Skype users be moved and transitioned across to Microsoft Teams, and then ultimately Teams will replace Yammer, will replace OneNote, it's storage, SharePoint, OneDrive. It is going to be the Teams will offer that full communications tool. But to be clear, no additional licensing, smooth transition. Customers under 500 users now are being sent directly to Teams. But those of you with existing Skype for Business licensing, there's nothing additional to buying that. We'll just transition into Teams with no loss of features or functionality. Now, there's been another significant update that Microsoft have put underneath the radar, and I appreciate this isn't going to be relevant to every user, to every organization, but I think it's an important point still to acknowledge. And this is around this from software assurance SKU. So effectively, if you have been buying an on-premise licenses under an EA, for example, and you've been having 3 years worth of software assurance, Microsoft realized that the cost of renewing that software assurance is actually cheaper than it is from buying a new Office 365 license. So they offered this from SA discount option for some online services, which kind of brings down the cost by around 15% of the online, bit closer to what it would have just cost you if you were renewing software assurance only. But actually, one of the key points I wanted to talk about is that yes, you got the 15% cheaper license, but actually you are also allowed to do a perpetual download to retain those perpetual rights for Office Professional Plus. This was always as an exception if you had that from SA SKU. So if you had Office 365 E3 from SA or E5 from SA, then what you could effectively do is choose to download Office 2016 and keep that as a perpetual license. This is being removed from the 1st of January 2019. So that effectively means that customers will therefore be moved onto the latest release of Office Pro Plus when it is released. For example, Office 2019 is click to run only, so that if you are a customer using from SA, that is going to be a significant change for you. Now, I wanted to run through some of these other slides from previous months, just covering off what those price increases were back from the 1st of October this year. And as you can see on the screen there, it's across all of the products globally. All agreements are 4% and only above 4% if it's an on-premise product. So as you can see, some things like the RDS scales up to 36% increase, but across the board, generally you're looking at that kind of around 14-15% with an additional 4% as well. So some significant price increases on the on-premise licensing. Obviously, Microsoft pushing that subscription cloud first type of license. There were other changes that happened on the 1st of October as well. For example, they're kind of taking away, with Windows 10 Enterprise E5, you could buy that as a per user or a per device type license for that desktop license. Excuse me, Microsoft been doing 25, 30 years of per device licensing. They've now taken that away from Windows 10 E5. You can no longer buy that as a per device license. Again, Microsoft's overarching strategy to push users, organizations to a per user subscription model. No increase in CSP. I mentioned those price increases, minimal increases on cloud licenses, and no increases on CSP because that is kind of a cloud first per user subscription type of agreement anyway. And again, I covered it very briefly with that new version of Office 2019. It is going to be click to run only, and it is not compatible with Windows 7. And there were other releases in October as well, which let me know if you'd like to know any more information about that. And I've already alluded to a lot of these reasons around why Microsoft are making these changes, but it's effectively because they want customers to be buying either, they want customers to be investing in the cloud. They want everyone to go onto this per user subscription model. So when every renewal comes up, whether it's a 12-month renewal cycle or whether it's a 3-year renewal cycle, actually you're on a subscription model. So you're going to have the latest and greatest and be consuming the latest technology, and you will be having no choice but to renew because you're not going to uninstall. Now, actually, if you are on the latest wave of product, then I'm a big supporter of that. But obviously, it's very keen, be very clear about Microsoft are making these changes because they want everyone onto that model. Now, with the price increases, what we will see is other agreements being dropped completely. So getting rid of things like Select Plus and MPSA and Open Value. And so really, whether a customer wants to buy an Office license, they can look at direct on the website, they can look at CSP, they can look at EA. In theory, the price will be the same. So it all becomes down to, right, well, actually, I'm not going to make this as a commercial decision. It's going to be on what model suits me, what adds the most value, which partner, which agreement, which licenses are going to actually, which engagement with Microsoft are actually going to offer me the most value. I think we're still a ways away from that. Without being cynical, we still have a good number of customers who use this Select Plus agreement, which was in theory retired around 2012, and here we are 6 years later. But however, that's not to say that Microsoft don't have a clear strategy here. They absolutely do, because they are kind of removing all like programmatical discounts. You can't get discounts on premise software, and they're entirely doing it for the on-premise, the online per user subscription model. It's part of their new modern commerce strategy. But again, just pushing up the on-premise costs, removal of the per device licenses towards the per user monthly subscriptions. So it is important to understand how this might affect your organization. Nothing massively technical or mind-blowing here. Price planning and technical strategy. Licensing should never drive that technical strategy, but you should certainly have a good licensing strategy which follows the technical requirements of where you want to be as an organization. Again, it's the normal stuff around being aware about when these changes happen, price locking when you can, for bringing forward renewals where it's possible. We looked right out to June to kind of avoid previous price increases. Analyzing whether it's per user or per device. So all this cost modeling, looking out over the lowest cost immediately, 12 months, 36 months, having that planning, understanding Microsoft's new discount structures. The Microsoft will not offer discounts for on-premise, and therefore how can we make sure that you get the best value commercially and then the best value from a support and value added perspective as well. So I've spoken quite a lot, gabbled through it quite a lot, as you can see, updates here and there, but I really want to focus on what this does mean for the future. And I spoke before about agreements being removed, spoke about MPSA being phased out, and open value subscription, MPSA Select Plus. And I think we're going to be left with a scenario where you've effectively got two choices. You as a customer, as they be left with two choices. We are talking in the futures here. We're good 4, 5, 6, 7 years away from this, I would say realistically. But as a customer, you're going to have a choice of, right, am I going to buy on a CSP agreement or am I going to buy on a enterprise agreement? So I just want to kind of cover off, really make sure we understand the differences between the two. Who is and there's going to be mixes and matches. We can see lots of scenarios where CSP is being used as an addendum for enterprise agreement customers, but effectively the CSP, this cloud solutions provider, platform partner type agreement, CSP is for one user, one license will start that agreement with an EA 500 users. So argument's sake, over 500 EA, under 500 CSP. On CSP at the moment, like I say, it's only cloud products, but we have seen 2 or 3 on-premise products go on there. So I think we'll obviously keep MPSA and open while there's no other option. But in time, we will see on-premise products come onto the CSP agreement. With the EA, you can buy all products, all offerings. You can buy step-ups, add-ons, that from SA SKUs. Again, to be clear, on CSP you can't. It's just kind of those full online SKUs and a couple of on-premise products. Whereas EA, you've got all of these options about step-ons and add-ups and best price point and everything like that. Under an EA, you kind of go onto the portal yourself and you can kind of self-provision the licenses. It's called license reservation, exactly when you need to do it. With CSP, it's through a partner such as Ultima, where you're effectively calling us up. We've got the knock and they will effectively manage that agreement and allocate those licenses as required. I mentioned before with CSP, it's a monthly upfront billing, and with EA, it is still upfront, but it's done annually. With CSP, you can add licenses at any time, and you always invoice at the start of the following month. With EA, you can add licenses at any time, but that invoice is then covered off at the true-up or anniversary period. And again, similarly with with CSP, major advantage is being able to increase and decrease licenses on a monthly basis with no penalty to do with free to do what you want really. With EA, what you are doing is you're making those annual investments, 500 seat minimum. You do have to wait for that true up / anniversary period if you do want to look at reducing or changing any of those quantities. But with the EA, absolutely, you get tiered pricing. The more you buy, the lower price you pay. You buy a particular strategic product from Microsoft, and there are additional discounts available. There is some customization of the rights available. We can do amendments. We can do a huge amount of stuff. Almost every organization will have their own specific EA or specific amendment, which is relevant to them, which is adding value to them. On that CSP, no discounting, no tiered pricing, no customization of use rights. But flexibility. Both are governed by the online service terms. So I do think as we move forward, these two agreements will stay separate, and there's going to be a clear reason why you go for one or the other. I think some of the background noise, some of the other agreements are going to be cleared and over time. I think that time will take 3 to 4, 5 years even. But those are on EAA, broad brushstrokes, confident that's still the right agreement for you. And if you're looking at NEA, again, a lot of those decision points are going to be the same. If you are willing to make a longer term investment, the commercial benefits are there. If you are looking to go organization wide and have a more of a phased approach, CSP might be the answer for you. So that brings the webinar to an end. And like I say, it is a whistle-stop tour. Some pretty key points, not all relevant to your organization, but hopefully some of the elements, well, there were some points there which you might have some follow-up questions around, or just some useful information. I hope it was useful to you. Thanks very much for your time. The recording is available. Should you have any follow-up questions, then please don't hesitate to let me know. Like I say, my name's Ian Gerard at ian.gerard@ultima.com. Also available on 07720 968 750. Feel free to contact your Ultima account manager or myself directly, or your licensing specialist directly. Thank you for your time.